Jai Hind students, how are you all? I would like to welcome you in the next module where we will discuss about People's Mahatma, how Gandhiji became People's Mahatma and what the general or common people used to call him and considered him as he the common people considered Mahatma Gandhi as Masiha, and Mahatma Gandhi ji built class unity and non-class conflict as well. He helped in fight against zamindars, peasants in Pratapgarh, in United Provinces, that is UP, later on which became Uttar Pradesh, managed to stop illegal eviction of tenants. Now we will discuss about the happenings between 1922 to 1929. Gandhiji called the non-cooperation movement in 1922 when set of people put fire to the police station of Chauri Chaura, and here 22 policemen died, and they called for constructive work in rural areas. Later on, Chittaranjan Das, the lawyer of East Bengal, and Motilal Nehru, they also argued that the party should fight election to the council and enter them in order to influence government policies. Through sincere social work in villages in the mid 1920s, the Gandhians were able to extend their support base, and this proved to be a very useful launching the civil disobedience movement in 1930. Two important developments of the mid 1920s were the formation of Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh (RSS), a Hindu organization, and the Communist Party of India. These parties have held very different ideas about the kind of country India should be, and we the revolutionary nationalist Bhagat Singh too was very active in this period. The decades closed with the Congress resolving to fight the Purna Swaraj, that is complete independence, in 1929 under the presidency of Jawaharlal Nehru. Consequently, Independence Day was also observed on 26th January 1930 all over the country. Now we will discuss about March to Dandi. Purna Swaraj would never come on its own, it had to be fought for. In 1930, with this tagline, with this notion, Gandhiji declared that he would lead a march to break the salt law. And according to this law, the state had a monopoly on the manufacture and sale of salt. Mahatma Gandhi, along with other nationalists, reasoned that it was sinful to tax salt since it is such an essential item of our food. The Salt March related to general desire of freedom to a specific grievance shared by everybody, and thus it did not divide the rich and poor. Gandhiji and his followers marched for over 240 miles from Sabarmati to the coastal town of Dandi, where they broke the government law by gathering natural salt and found on the seashore and boiling sea water to produce salt. Peasants, tribals, and women participated in large number. Even the Business Federation published a pamphlet on the salt issue. The government tried to crush this movement through their brutal action, as well as they always used to do against the peaceful freedom fighters, or they were known as satyagrahis. The combined struggles for Indian people bore fruit when Government of India Act of 1935 prescribed provincial autonomy, and the government announced the elections to provincial legislature in 1937. The Congress formed government in 7 out of 11 provinces. When in September 1939, after 2 years, the Congress ruled in the provinces, the Second World War broke out, and critical of Hitler, Congress leaders were ready to support Britishers during this war, but they had a condition, and the condition was that the Britishers will have to leave their country and grant independence to our country, grant freedom to our country after that war. Now we will discuss about Quit India movement as it took place in between the Second World War in August 1940, and Gandhiji gave a slogan. He said to the common people that do or die in your efforts to fight the British, but you must fight non-violently. Gandhiji and other leaders were jailed at once, but the movement spread. It specially attracted peasants and the youth who gave up their studies to join in. Communication and symbols of the state authority were attracted all over the country, and in many areas people set up their own governments. The first response of the British was severe repression, and by the end of 1943, over 90,000 people were arrested and 1,000 were killed by the police firing only. Even the British government now they asked for the machine gun, and it should be crowds from airplanes, and the rebellion, however, ultimately brought the Raj to its knees. In 1940, now if we talk about partition, Muslim League had moved a resolution demanding independent state for Muslims in the northwestern and eastern areas of the country. The resolution did not mention partition or Pakistan, but from the late 1930s, the League began viewing the Muslim as a separate nation from Hindus, as we have already seen in the beginning of this chapter. In the developing of this notion, it may be influenced by the history of tension between some Hindu and Muslim group in 1920s and 1930s. And what happened, more importantly, the provincial election of 1937 seemed to have convinced the League that Muslims were a minority and they would always have to play second fiddle in any democratic structure. It feared that Muslims may even go unrepresented, and the Congress's rejection of the League's desire to form a joint Congress League government in the United Provinces in 1937 also annoyed the Muslim. In this way, you can understand that yes, it was the time when during the fight for independence, politics were also going on in between. And the Congress's failure to mobilize the Muslim masses in 1930s allowed the League to widen its social support. It sought to enlarge its support in the early 1940s. Election to the provinces were again held in 1946, and the Congress did not well in general constituencies, but the League's success in the seats reserved for Muslims were spectacular, and it persisted with its demand for Pakistan. In March 1946, British cabinet sent a three-member mission to Delhi to examine this demand and to suggest a suitable political framework for a free India. This mission suggested that India should remain united and constitute itself as a loose confederation with some autonomy for Muslim majority areas, but it could not get the Congress and the Muslim League to agree to specific details of the proposal. Partition now became more or less inevitable. But after the failure of the cabinet mission, the Muslim League decided on mass agitation for winning its Pakistan demand. It announced on 16th August 1946 as Direct Action Day. On this day, riots broke out in Calcutta lasting for the several days, and resulting in the death of thousands of people. And by March 1947, violence spread to different parts of the northern India. Many 100,000 people were killed, and numerous women had to face untold brutalities during the partition. Millions of people were forced to flee their homes, torn asunder and from their homelands. They were reduced to being refugees in the alien lands. Partition also meant that India changed, many of its cities changed, and a new country, Pakistan, was born. So the joy of our country's independence from British rule came mixed with the pain of violence and definitely partition. There are certain famous leaders we are going to talk about: Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, Maulana Azad, and Raja Gopalachari, and even Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel also. Pashtun leader from NWFP and the founder of Khudai Khidmatgar opposed partition and criticized Congress for agreeing for the partition in 1947. Whereas Maulana Azad, he was from Bengali father and Arab mother, means he has a Bengali background, and scholar of Islam, exponent of the notion of Wahadat-e-Din, the essential oneness of all rights. Raja Gopalachari, member of interim government in 1946 as Free India, India's first Indian Governor General. As we all know, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, he was also renowned as the Iron Man. Now we will discuss about nationalism in Africa. Colonial rule in Africa was dictatorial, and only chiefs were allowed to rule on behalf of the foreign powers. Laws affecting Africans were created in all white legislatures, and the Africans had no decisions making powers or the representation, even it was until after Second World War at least. In 1957, the Gold Coast, known as Ghana, was one sub-Saharan African nation to gain independence, and the movement led by Kwame Nkrumah Convention People's Party till they have achieved the independence. So this much only in this module. Thank you. Jai Hind.